So welcome, everybody. This is Mary Davis, President of the Board of Mission Dharma, and it is my pleasure tonight to introduce our guest teacher, Linda Rose. And Linda began practicing insight meditation back in the late 70s. And in 2000, she began classes and residential retreats at Spirit Rock, and soon after became an active member of Mission Dharma in San Francisco. So some of you may recognize Linda from the Sangha. And she's a retired clinical social worker, psychotherapist, and a dance movement therapist, and is now living in Eugene, Oregon. Together with her partner and another practitioner, she formed Eugene Insight Meditation Community. Her focus is sharing the Dharma. In 2019, she began Spirit Rock's Community Dharma Leader Program, although it was terminated due to COVID. But she's continued to study and practice in the multitude of ways technology has to offer during this pandemic. So it's my pleasure to turn it over to Linda.
Thank you, Mary, and welcome everybody. It's been quite interesting to get to come back to Mission Dharma all these miles away, and that's one of the beautiful things that the pandemic has offered. But it is really my pleasure to be here with you tonight, taking the noble seat, which I think of as Howie's. And as Howie would say, you know, put your tush on the cush. I feel like my tush is on Howie's cush. So he's here with me, and I hope with you all as well. Do you want to let people say hello? Do you usually do that? Yeah. All right. So if you would like to unmute for a moment and say hi and just welcome yourselves and each other so I can hear voices.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
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 Hi.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Seeing
Fort Townsend.
Hi.
Hi, I'm from Victoria.
Yes, hi. San Francisco.
Welcome, everybody. Great.
Now mute.
So, yeah, so this used to be my Sangha. I moved away from Eugene in 2014, from San Francisco to Eugene in 2014. And it was a big loss to lose Howie and the community, and to come to Eugene and find out, you know, Eugene has everything spiritual, but they did not have insight meditation. It was very strange. So what do? We started it. And 7 years later, we started in our home, and we've been through several different studios, and now we're like you on Zoom. And during this time, we lost our space. So we'll see what happens next. But our Sangha is continuing in its strength. And we actually brought Howie here a couple years ago for a retreat, and that was really wonderful. So anyway, it's my pleasure to be here with you tonight. And I'm going to follow the normal Mission Dharma format. So we'll start with a 40-minute sit and then take a bio break, a 5-minute bio break, and then I'll come back with the Dharma talk and we'll take it from there. So I'm going to make sure everybody's muted. All right, so I welcome you to find a comfortable posture to bring yourselves into for these next moments. And I'm going to begin the sit with the beautiful words of Dogen, the third Zen patriarch, this famous piece: to study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to know the self. To know the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to know the way. So here we are with these selves, just sitting in these bodies. Taking a few moments to move around if you need to find a comfortable posture that's both upright and relaxed. Feeling the pressure of your seat on the cushion or the chair. Perhaps the touch of your hands, whatever they're touching, each other or your lap. You might notice warmth or coolness. Feeling your back maybe against something or just upright on your own. Bringing your attention to your breath, just that normal breath, wherever you most readily feel it, in the nostrils or the chest or the abdomen. If you want to take a couple of deeper breaths just to help you relax and calm the body, you can do that. And feeling yourselves here in this moment. Is it safe enough to let down, to let those barriers and defenses down? Is it safe enough to just be who you are, however you are? Letting the breath be like an anchor for your attention so that whenever it wanders and you realize it, you can always come back. You may notice the breath change as you're sitting. Sometimes it gets shorter or deeper, more shallow, longer. There's no right, just notice your breath, this breath, the next breath. How is it for you? In this way, we settle down just like a body of water, coming to stillness, letting all the sediments settle, so that we can see more clearly what's here. We get to feel how the body is, if it's tense or relaxed, warm or cool. If there's particular aches or pains or comfort even, we get to be aware of that. This is how it is in this body right now. Just bringing that sense of calm, calm in the body, calm in the breath. We get to see how the mind is, just how the mind is doing right now. If it's busy thinking or planning, or it's at rest. Without getting caught in the stories, just seeing if we can watch what's dropping down to the bottom of the water. We get to see how the heart is. How's your heart doing today, right now? Whatever that means to you physically or emotionally. Allowing whatever is there to just be there, meeting it with a kind friendliness. It's like a welcome mat. Here, come in, let me see you. Let me see what's here. Noticing where your attention is now. If you're lost in thought, it's a moment to come back to here and now, right here, this breath, this feeling, this awareness. Remembering to come back to this moment, to this beautiful exploration of how it is right now for you in this being. Just a friendly welcome to whatever is here. And if it's unpleasant, what's arising, see if you could meet it with compassion, with care, with tenderness. Notice if there is a sense of calm anywhere in your body or in your breath or in your nervous system. Just notice calm. Notice stillness. Just being here right now, just how it is with this body, this mind, this heart. Just here, like this. As the calm increases and the spaciousness and the stillness increase, we get to have more room for loving kindness. The more we can welcome ourselves as we are, the more we're able to do that for others as well. So as we begin to move towards the end of the sit, it's might be nice to open the awareness out beyond this self, beyond the boundaries of this body and mind. Just be able to bring in other beings that might be in our vicinity, in our families and homes, in our neighborhoods, people that we care about. Be sending them the same kind of welcome, kindness, that it's okay to just be however they are. And continuing to open up to all beings, those that we don't know very well, perhaps those we don't even really like very well, those that we've never met. Continuing to just offer this kind, sweet welcome to just be however they are, that it's okay, just like it's okay for us to be. And we do this practice not only for ourselves, but for all beings. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings be happy at heart. May all living beings, whether weak or strong, tall, large, medium or short, tiny or big, seen or unseen, near or far, born or to be born, may they all be happy. Thank you all so much. Very lovely to practice together. So I think, Mary, is this
Yep.
you? Yes.
Yeah. So just a couple of brief announcements. There is currently the Labor Day Insight Meditation Retreat on the land at Spirit Rock. It's currently accepting applications for the lottery. The lottery will be drawn on June 15th. So if you're interested in attending that retreat, I will drop the link in the chat. And yeah, just how lovely to be back on the land at Spirit Rock. Very exciting. And then just a quick reminder about Dharma. And just remembering that Dharma is a practice that is designed to gladden our heart. And it's also a way of expressing our appreciation and gratitude for these precious teachings. So your generosity of support is a gift that supports not just the teachers like Linda, like Howie, but you're also supporting each other and yourself in ensuring that these access to these teachings in the future. So again, I will drop the information on ways to offer Dharma, and thank you in advance for your kindness and your generosity. And then I think we're going to take a little 5-minute bio break. And then, or you can also take care of your Dharma during that break.
Okay, are we ready? All right. So welcome back, everybody. I'm seeing some familiar faces. That's so nice. So this evening, my Dharma talk, I have titled, it is not personal and it's exquisitely personal. It's not personal and it is exquisitely personal. And I'll say that I was thinking about this, I've been thinking about this a lot. But what I realized is that one of my very first interactions with Howie about 20 years ago, and when I went up to him and was starting to have a relationship with him as a teacher, and I said to him, I just don't get this not self thing. I just don't get it. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. So he kind of gave me permission to forget about it, to not have to stress, to not have to focus on it. So, that's a beautiful thing to let it go. But I realized that it's always been a question for me, and maybe it's a koan that I have to work with. That's one of the ways that I started thinking about it. And being a psychotherapist for all those years and being on both sides of the couch, being in psychotherapy myself for such a long time, I see the self as such a focus that this was really for so many of us Westerners, it didn't make sense. So this is what I'm presenting tonight, the way that I've been working with this koan, I shall say. And I'm going to start with a few stories. The first story is, some of you may be familiar with these stories. The first story dates back to the time of the Buddha, and it's Kisa Gotami and the mustard seed. Right, so this is a story of a woman, Kisa Gotami, who has a child, a son who gets sick and dies. And she is so bereft, as any mother would be. And she just is going around crying. She can't put her son down, and she's asking for people to help bring her son back to life. Nobody can help her do that. And finally, somebody takes pity on her and says, I know someone who might be able to help you. Go see the Buddha. So she is so, looking forward to this. She goes to the Buddha. She's still carrying her dead son. And she says, can you help bring my son back to life? And the Buddha says, I will help you, but first you have to do something for me. You have to bring me a mustard seed from a house where no family member has died. And so Kisa Gotami goes from door to door, knocking, asking, and she at times almost gets a mustard seed, but at the last minute remembers to ask, has anybody died here? And they've lost a mother, a grandmother, a son, a spouse. Every home has lost somebody. And in that process, her heart cracks open and she is awakened. She is able to finally bury her son, let go of him, and she goes back to the Buddha and bows down at his feet and asks to be a disciple of his. So that's the first story. The second story dates to the 10th century, and this story is called Marpa Loses a Son. And Marpa was a very well-regarded master, also a family man, but he was highly, highly respected. He was a teacher of Milarepa, also highly respected. So Marpa had a family, which wasn't that usual for masters, but he was both a family man and a master. And he and his family had gotten a message to take care to protect their son. There was going to be a county fair, and somebody told them to watch that his son did not go. But his son, being a youngster, crept out the window and went to the country fair and got on a horse and was thrown from the horse, hitting his head and dying right there on the spot. Marpa was also bereft, and he goes and he's holding his son in his head in his lap, and he's crying. And one of his students comes up to him and says, "Master, why are you crying?" And Marpa says, "I lost my son. It's so sad." And the student says, "But Master, you taught us that this was all an illusion. So why are you crying?" And Marpa says, "Yes, but this is the most painful illusion of them all." Right. I really love those two stories because I think they hold a teaching around the two extremes of what is personal and what is not personal, both the healthy part or the skillful part, and the unhealthy or unskillful part. In the first story, Kisa Gotami is so caught in her grief, and she can't let go. She can't bury her son. She can't put him down. She can't move on. She can't live her life. So she is what we might think of as very entangled in that self-personal experience. And it is in the opening to the not personal, the impersonal, the way that she sees this is so universal. Everybody that I've seen has lost somebody. I'm not alone. And that impersonal cracks her heart open and really is her awakening. And in the second story, I think Marpa's student really holds the position that so many of us, particularly in the West, have this kind of misunderstanding of Buddhism, of what not self means. And I include myself in this category, that, it's all an illusion. We all are going to die. We're all going to lose everybody that we love. So why grieve? Why cry? But in so doing, Marpa, the master, who is holding the other side of the story, the personal here, is saying, this is the human experience. This is important. It's important to feel what we're feeling, and so I think the personal helps us, but also can harm us in the way that we get entangled. And the impersonal can really liberate us, but also it can constrict us in a way that we might try to do that, what's called a spiritual bypass, and bypass the real human emotional experience. So I have a third story, and this is more modern day. This is a story that I heard through a dear friend of mine who is a Zen and Vipassana practitioner. And this was a paper that somebody in her Zen Sangha wrote, and his name is Alan Richards. The paper is called The Art of Grieving. And I think that Alan really writes this beautiful piece about how he used his practice to deal with the loss of his son. So this is the third son in this trilogy, really, who has died. And the first thing that Alan says is that no practice and no belief can take away the pain of a child's death. The grief is just too primal for that to be possible. instead, it seems to me that any practice might be seen as a pain management strategy, about learning to live with the pain. So it's not about making it go away or getting over it. It's not about moving on or putting it behind you, but learning how to live in this shadow of loss. And that also made me think about something that I heard Tuwari Sala, who's the teacher, the Seattle Insight meditation teacher, and I know she taught for you Mission Dharma, so you may remember her. So what she said, and she has this on her website, I love it. She says, we're not trying to stand in the middle of something and know that the situation will pass, but we're trying to stand in the middle of it and know that our overwhelm will pass. That's what's passing. And I think that that's the grief here in this story, is that we don't know that the grief is going to pass. And most people, and many of you that have maybe experienced this, know that grief doesn't necessarily go away. Sometimes we carry it for a lifetime, but it changes, it softens, maybe it comes and goes, but I think the overwhelm is what really does change. And that applies not just to grief, but I think any strong, painful, dukkha type experience. So, all right. And so Alan, in this paper, he talks also about we are doing this introspection, which is part of why I really like that poem that I started with, the Dogen piece about studying the self in order to know the self. And I think that is a large part of what we do in this practice. So self, no self, this is what we have here. This is our tool. And this is what we are studying, what we're getting to learn about, getting to know, so that we don't act unconsciously and inadvertently harm ourselves or others, which we all probably know times that we've done it or other people have done it. So part of this is, realizing that life isn't fair, that it comes with the dukkha, the suffering. That's the first noble truth, and that there is loss, there is old age, sickness, death. All of that is part of the package. And so there's this thing that Alan goes through in his paper about realizing that, yeah, life isn't fair. It isn't just. And we go into that place of, why me? Why did this happen to me? I know many of us do that a lot. But he says at the same time, it's not random. Although we can't come up with like, oh, it happened because I was this kind of person or he was this kind of person. It happened due to causes and conditions. And I think this is one of the Buddha's main teachings. And sometimes it's hard to wrap the brain around it because it seems so different from how we tend to look at things. So Alan lays out this kind of beautiful and very mundane list of causes and conditions that led to his son's death. And he said, first of all, this was an accident. His son died in a car accident. This is a college-age student. He says, no one could have known beforehand that what happened would happen. The conditions of his death include that he was a student at a particular college, that he and his friend got close, and that they were going to go to a concert, that the concert was sold out, that they left the concert and decided to go to visit some fraternity brothers at another school. And while they were on the road, a driver lost control of his car. A truck driver had to stop suddenly lest he kill everyone in front of him. And the driver of his son's car could not stop in time. No one was planning any of this. It had causes, but the combination of causes, all of which were necessary for the event to occur, could not have been predicted by anyone. And for me, that's Alan, No one involved intended any harm. Truly, it was an accident. So his death, his son's death, was truly impersonal and truly personal. I mean, he felt the grief. I'm sure he still feels the grief. And yet he also could get to this point through his practice, through the wisdom, that this wasn't anybody's fault. There was actually nobody to blame. And he, could feel like one of the friends who was in the back seat actually walked away unharmed, while the driver and his son were both killed on the spot. But he did not hold grudges or anger against anybody, but he grieved. So there was no one to blame, no one singled out. And he felt like, I'm not alone. And this line that he said was very powerful for me. He said, at this point, I realized I'm just the latest draftee in the war of the walking wounded. I'm just the latest draftee in the war of the walking wounded. I know many of us can feel that from time to time. And I think it's important to remember that we're part of a whole. We're not alone. So I say this big part of the practice is introspection, studying ourselves, learning about how we react to the world, learning what our limitations and our patterns of distraction are. But the risk of identifying with the self is big. And I think that's one of the traps of the self is, oh, I'm so this, I'm so that, or you're so this, you're so that. So being able to really see, to look at ourselves without that kind of over-identification is part of the challenge. I think of it sometimes the trick is about remembering that we're not responsible for these bodies, these minds, these nervous systems, but we are responsible to know them and for what we do with them, for our behavior. So I think there's a big difference. And a lot of times, we take that first part, responsible for, well, I should be different, as if we had some control over that. And we don't. Our bodies are not certainly in our control. And those of us that are aging really know that, or anybody that has any kind of illness or disability knows that. So, and yet many times we still think that. So I like to think that we're stewards of these bodies, and these minds and these hearts. That's our responsibility. So recently I've been going through some of my dukkha, has been physical dukkha. As I just mentioned, the aging body, I'm having some very kind of common, I guess, sciatica type problem, back pain, nerve pain, leg and foot. And, it's like really learning to experience what I'm going through without the add-ons, without the second arrow, without those stories that say, oh my God, what's happening next? Or how bad is this going to be? Or how come this is happening to me? And I think that's where the personal starts to get unskillful, where we get entangled. So I had this experience recently. One of the beautiful things about the pandemic is these Zoom groups. And, like many of you, I've had an opportunity to connect with old friends and family via Zoom and in ways that we probably wouldn't be doing if we were seeing face-to-face contact. So one of the groups I'm with, this Zoom group, there's about 11 of us, and we are old friends for almost 50 years. And some of us have been more connected than others, but we're all, so happy to see each other. And we've all been dancers together, so we share this history. And we all have aging bodies. So one day I was looking around this Zoom group of 11, and actually there should be more squares, but a couple have died already. And the ones that are there, I noticed that 4 boxes have cancer. 2 have serious loss, one of a husband, one of a son. 2 boxes have Alzheimer's, one early stage and one late stage, and the one late stage is no longer able to be with us on Zoom. And the rest of us have various pictures of physical dukkha, sometimes emotional dukkha. And that time that I did that for myself was my mustard seed moment. It was kind of looking around for somebody that wasn't suffering. And I tell you, I couldn't find it. It was really a great cracking open for me of my heart. So I realized in that way, I was just the latest draftee in the War of the Walking Wounded. So I think the teaching for me in this, the big teaching is finding the middle path, which, as we are familiar with, this is the great teaching of the Buddha is the middle path. That's what the Eightfold Path is all about. And holding the middle path, finding the middle path between what is personal and what is not personal is the challenge here. I think the danger of the going to the too personal is the over-identification, the being entangled or lost in the little stories, and getting into those second arrows where we distort or add on to the suffering, and we're not able to see the big picture, to see what else is there. So that is like the kisagotami, is that's the danger of the too personal. And the danger of the too impersonal, I think, is getting detached, getting dissociated, numb, not really feeling the experience, not knowing what's there. And that's the danger that Marpa's student in his misunderstanding was really illustrating. And that's, again, what we call a spiritual bypass. So when I started to explore this talk, I was talking to Howie about it, and he summed up this for me so beautifully. He said, "Oh yes, the impersonal is the wisdom, and the personal is the compassion." And that is really it. I thought, it made me think about the way that the practice is often talked about as a bird with 2 wings, the wing of compassion and the wing of wisdom. And the bird needs both in order to fly. So we need both in order to really be skillful, to be wholesome. It's like we need to know what's here. This is the personal, and we need to know that that's not all, and that we're part of a whole. Jack Cornfield tells this story of his teacher, Ajahn Chah, and you might have heard this story because he tells it a lot. But he said Ajahn Chah, the great Thai forest master, used to say that the mind is like movies. Sometimes there's a romantic movie playing, sometimes it's a scary movie, sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's a mystery. But he said, who's watching the movie? So I think that too fits in here, because our experience of the feelings that we have when we're involved in the movie, which is really our lives, that's the personal. And who's watching the movie? That's the impersonal. That's actually this part of us that is not so attached to the identity. And one other very short little tidbit. I heard this the other day from Gil Fronsdale. I think some of you might sit with him in the morning. I've been sitting with him over a year now. If anybody is up, and actually you could do this at any time, but Gil is like the gift that keeps on giving. He is just every morning, Monday to Friday, from 7 to 7:30, he leads a sit, and 7:30 to 7:45, he does a small Dharmet, and he's just so wonderful. So one of the things he shared the other day was he was remembering a time in his life when he was young, maybe 28, and first ordained. So he was in his robes. He was a Zen monk at the time. He remembers going out into the world in his robes and feeling so seen, as one would in their robes. And that made him acutely aware of all his shortcomings. He said on the one hand. On the other hand, he realized he was a child of the Buddha, and that made it okay. I really like that. I think that's it too. It's to know our shortcomings and also to let it be okay. Those are two of the sides. So I'm going to close this with another great teacher's words. These are the words of Mary Oliver, the late great poet. This is an excerpt from In Blackwater Woods. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go, to let it go. Well, that is my Dharma talk for the evening. Thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it. And we have time. I would love to just open it up and invite anyone that would like to. I see Madison has a raised hand. Where are you, Madison? There you are. Okay, you can unmute.
I'm unmuted. First of all, thank you very much. It's been about 10 years, I think, since I sat with you in
Are you there,
Spirit
Madison?
Rock, a very long time. Yeah, can you hear me?
Looks like
Can you
Madison
hear
might
me?
have froze.
Can you hear me now?
Okay,
No?
we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Catherine.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for this talk. It was very,
Oh,
I can hear her. I was able to hear her.
do you want to try Madison again?
yeah, I apologize. I had a speaker that turned off on me. So
Yeah, go back to Madison. I'll come back later.
thank you. I'm sorry, Madison, go ahead.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'll rephrase it a little bit. It's been many years since I've seen you at Spirit Rock, and it's lovely to see you here again. And I went into a deep state of relaxation in the sit. I had kind of a question. I was listening carefully, and I'm familiar with those stories. And I would love to hear your wisdom on this, so I want to condense it. I spent 8 months researching who should perform this surgery that I got in late February. And it was a gripping drama. And
I'm at Madison, you're going in and out. I'm having a hard time hearing
picked
you.
a woman to do it. Meaning I didn't really walk in to get the surgery. Okay, if you really can't hear me, go on to the other lady. Is that easier? I keep pressing my screen. I'm not quite sure what else to do.
Yeah, well, I can hear you now, but you were breaking up. So,
Okay, I'll give it another minute. And if I break up again,
Okay.
You can dismiss me. Okay. Anyhow, I got this surgery after I researched it carefully, and the woman did it, and I'm back to square one. And she either has to do it again, or I have to actually pay again for someone to do it. And so at first there was anger, and then there's been this exquisite detachment, like I'm not going to get angry at her, I'm just going to stay calm. And I just was relating to what you said, and I thought, God, I wonder if it's a spiritual bypass, and if you had any wisdom around that, because there's part of me that wants to say, how could you have failed at this? And then the deal with any surgery is you could give the person a chance to do it again and botch it up again, or you could just have faith, or you could say that's the way it is, or it's the mustard seed or whatever. But I've been really stuck. And so I've gone into I'm not going to think about this until I meet with her again in a month, because I want to scream, because I was so close to picking somebody else. So I just wondered if you had any advice about that. And we also share all the other crap about getting older, but this was just like, whoa, man, this was going to be a surgery that anybody could do, and she flubbed it. Something got flubbed. She flubbed it. My body, it didn't take, whatever it is. And I just wondered if you had some comments maybe about that.
Wow. That's a big story, Madison. I guess I just want to respond to your feelings, because it seems like I don't hear spiritual bypass in there so much. I hear a lot of dukkha, a lot of suffering, and a lot of confusion, which makes sense. It's hard. It's hard. The medical field and dealing with these things can be very tricky. And, I can't really, I'm kind of at a loss for what to tell you, but it feels like the work is around getting clear for yourself how to take care of yourself here. And I don't know what that looks like for you.
I will let it ride. I just figured I would throw that in because I heard that around the loss, and it's an ongoing story, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I thank you for bringing it up, and I feel for you. It's very challenging.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So, Catherine.
Hi, Linda. So
Hi,
nice
Catherine.
in my beautiful hometown of Eugene. I wanted to just thank you for your teaching. The stories were so germane. A close colleague of mine just lost his daughter and the daughter's boyfriend in a car accident a week and a half ago. And I'm in a position of really bearing witness. I mean, I'm not like a close friend of the family, but I produce his podcast. So he asked me to record both memorial services because he wants to write about his daughter, and he may want to use the recordings, and the family wanted them. And I guess I've been really thinking about the role of a community bearing witness in the face of just such unspeakable loss, and the grief that I'm feeling. It touches me deeply, but on the other hand, it also feels sort of like secondhand grief, like this wasn't my direct loss. I guess I'm just thinking about the role of that we all play in bearing witness to others' grief, because it is in a way ours. As you were saying, nobody is spared. The particulars change, but So I don't know if you have any thoughts about bearing witness in that way.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. That's notion of the community bearing witness and holding the grief together. I think that's very powerful. It reminds me I was raised Jewish, and in the Jewish faith, there's a very strong component where when there's a death, you sit Shiva and people come and visit and are always with you, holding you, and for the first 7 days. And after that, there's often this kind of emptiness that you're back by yourself. There's some loss. So I know that when my mother died and I went back to see her and be with her community, I really experienced that sense of the community sharing the grief, and how powerful that is and how powerful it is to lose it. And I think we are so, in many ways, in this society, cut off from doing that together as a community, except we have our little enclaves when we are really struck like you are. But I think it helps to hold the grief. Not that we can really feel what they're feeling, but there's some way that we can just hold the space together. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Yeah.
I feel it's the thing I can do. I actually feel like it's kind of, in some ways, the only thing I can do. I mean, express my support, but really just to be fully present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That way. Yeah.
It sounds like a lot and a wonderful thing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see Margot has a hand.
Yes, I put a message in the chat. I would like to know how to attend Gil's Sangha during the week. And your talk has been very apropos for me because a dear friend of mine lost her son about 3 years ago. And I'm thinking about her and trying to understand what I can do for her now. And it's been 3 years, and I don't know. I'm sorry I'm so vague, but what you were speaking about was helpful, and it's really helpful for me to ponder the things that you said. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Oh yeah, so Mary put in the website where you can find Gil's talks, which is the Insight Meditation Center in Redwood City. Thanks, Mary. Okay. So actually, it looks like we're pretty much at the end of our time. Right. Well, why don't we come back for the last moment just to our bodies, ourselves, and let everything settle in and drop down to the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of the water, such as we were doing before in the meditation, letting things settle, just feeling the calm or the ripples, whatever's left, whatever is there. Let the words drop away. And just remember that we're in here, in this body, in this being. That's what we have. That's what we present. That's where we live. And we're all connected. Nobody here is alone. So with that, I thank you all so much for your practice and your kind attention. It's so beautiful to be back with you at Mission Dharma in San Francisco. I miss you. Thank you all. Feel free to unmute if you'd like to say goodbye.
Great to sit with you. Thanks so much, Linda Rose.